It's time for Talking Cinema, featuring your hosts, Julius Freeman, Sean P. Malone, and James Callahan. And a lot of bald people in the audience. Talking Cinema.
All right. Thank you for that narration, Sean.
That's great.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
And the ball heads, just for the record, the ball heads on the sitting and watching the screen, they're there for lighting purposes, just like in noir films, they had to wet the floors to get that lighting, that beautiful night lighting. So that's why the ball heads were there in the photo shoot.
You just made that
Welcome
up,
everyone.
Right?
Yeah, I just made it up, yes.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to Talking Cinema. We are your hosts. I'm Julius Freeman, Sean Malone, and James Callahan. Today's film is going to be Blast of Silence, an old noir film. And since this is the film that Sean chose for us to watch, I'm going to hand the baton to Mr. Sean Malone, and he's going to have the duties of hosting the show tonight. And so, Sean, please lead us and talk to us and take us through this film that you recommended, which I never heard about, by the way. I never heard of the film.
Me neither.
It's part of a Criterion collection, which I come to find out when I was researching the film a little bit this past week. And I have to say, I was really impressed with it, but we'll get to that after we give introductions as to what the film was about and how did you come across this film? Like, what was it, in film school, or did you happen to, stumble upon it? Take us into this journey of yours.
So this movie is called Blast of Silence. It's it'd probably be best categorized as a film noir. Although something interesting about it is film noir typically is understood to be 1940s, 1950s. Crime cinema centering on a male character who's usually experiencing some kind of crisis of masculinity, blah, blah, blah. But in this particular movie, it's a really great example of a really awesome low budget noir, but it comes late. I think it's probably the latest black and white film noir that I'm aware of that kind of has that flavor to it. It's directed and starring a guy named Alan Barron, who also wrote the screenplay, and he apparently wanted to cast this role. He went through. He didn't want to cast himself in the role, but ultimately it ended up, I guess, because of budgetary reasons or whatever, he ended up saying, "Well, I'll just play the main role too, even though I wrote it and I'm directing it." But it's cool because I mean he's not a leading man type, so but he does kind of have that like muggy face of a kind of hitman criminal.
Yeah, and he reminded me a little bit of George C. Scott, like a young George C. Scott.
I could see that.
Yeah. Especially in this shot right here. This shot, I was like, when I first started watching the movie, I was like, I had to do like a double glance and be like, wait, is that George C. Scott? But then, of course, it wasn't. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I think his performance, and I don't mean this as like a backhanded compliment to him, even though it's going to sound like one. His performance in this movie, I think, comes off in a very like muted, kind of ordinary way. There's no big stars in the movie, so you're able to encounter each character sort of like as a person and not necessarily as like, oh, I know that guy from this other movie. The one exception to that might be the narrator, who could you scroll down, Julio? I've forgotten the narrator's name.
Oh, I have it written down. It's Lionel Stander.
Yeah, so this guy, he was a character.
I recognized
actor.
The voice. It really excited me while I was watching it.
Yeah,
wow.
I recognized it too because he's in a very memorable scene in Once Upon a Time in the West.
That's right. That's where I remembered him from. Yeah,
and he's like New Orleans. He's the barkeeper guy.
Oh, okay, yes. All right,
sure
all
is.
Right. That's okay. Dude, I totally that went over my head. Oh wow, that's even better that he was a narrator for this film. Wow.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably rambling now, but anyway, I'll just say it's a great cast. All the Big Ralph is, I think, a really interesting character.
Very interesting character.
He likes
I
rats.
I think Lori, his sort of girl he knew in his past, his love interest, I think she's cast really well too. But anyway, enough about. Oh, and the last thing I'll say, I'm not as good a host as Julio or James, but the last thing I'll
don't
say.
sell yourself short like that. Don't sell yourself short. Just
That's
embrace it.
ridiculous.
Just go for it. Come on, man.
The last thing I'll say before I throw it to you guys is, yeah, I just heard about this movie from a friend. My friend Tim Compton said, "Hey, you ought to watch this movie," and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with. I love noir to begin with. I love it when low budget movies really sing and soar and succeed. This movie, I feel like, it's very cinematic in the sense that because it's a low budget movie, they're really using all the tools at their disposal and trying to amplify, like with the sound design, with the music, with the cinematography, with the casting. It all comes together really well, and it's very admirable. But enough about me or how I encountered the movie. What did you guys think of the movie? Well, James, maybe you could give us a short synopsis of the movie, and then you can tell us what you thought about it. So for our viewers, what's a short synopsis?
The story centers on Frankie Bono, who is a clear anti-hero, and he doesn't have a very optimistic outlook on life. He's a little bleak, and it has this interesting voiceover narration throughout that sounds like the narrator is talking to you, the audience, but it almost sounds like it could be his internal monologue. He reminding himself that, he's very antisocial and anti-human in a way, and to justify the job that he does. He's a hitman and he's assigned to do this job. And
sorry,
that one went over my head. That went over my head.
I think Curious Comics, I think he meant that his friend's name is Tim Compton, not from Compton.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's what Curious Comics thought. He thought that he meant that Sean meant Tim from Compton, but no, it's Tim Compton. Is that right, Sean?
That's true. That's right. Okay. But Tim is from Chicago, which is hardcore. But go ahead, James.
So he has this job and he travels to New York to basically find his target and make the hit. And then along the way, I think he starts to have a conflict of his anti-social, anti-human perspective, and it kind of is his downfall. And it's funny, this movie, I don't know, I was immediately drawn into it just from the opening shot, which I think is a very cool idea. Just an awesome example of doing so much with so little and making it I got a lot of vibes from I thought a lot about French New Wave and Italian neorealism a little bit. I thought of Breathless, the Jean-Luc Godard film. That I don't know if that was an influence on this movie at all, because they came out around the same time, and I don't know if Breathless was readily available in the US, but I was just really impressed by how handmade the movie felt. Yeah. It felt like this guy just wanted to make a movie. He wrote it, directed it, starred in it. The producer is also the cinematographer. It just has this feel like I've never seen any of the actors' faces before, and really added to the flavor of the movie that is just way too bleak for its time. There's no way this movie could have been mainstream in 1961. So it was a very interesting and compelling movie.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, Julio, what did you think of it?
Who's Julio? Just kidding. I loved it, man. I dug it from beginning to end. It was like James mentioned, the beginning shot when he's coming out of the tunnel and then talking about birth, how he, when you're born and the baby, the doctor slaps your butt to remind you that you're alive. It was just I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. This is gonna be great. I dig this, and also love the narration, even though it's we don't have many movies they don't make them like that anymore, where you hear the main character's thoughts, out loud. And as you know, if you have seen the movie adaptation, what's his name? The character who played the writer who wrote Story. The what's
Robert
help me out here,
McKee.
James. Robert McKee, played by
Brian
I always
Cox.
forget the actor's name. Thank you, Brian Cox. Talks about how God help your movie if you have narration in your film, but in this instance, it worked. It worked because it had the feel, it had the look, it had the aesthetic. It was like it would make sense to have a character like this or a movie, make a movie like this that has narration where you can listen to it and watch the visuals at the same time. I also liked the story was a little it could have been executed a little better from me, but considering that this was his first film, if I'm correct, right? Or is this, so first film, independent film, so I excused it. It wasn't that big of a deal because it still kept my interest, which is important for any film. And I really did I dug those New York shots, man. Those shots when he's walking down New York, and it's all guerrilla style where they're obviously in the car, but the car is moving at the right speed where it looks like it's a dolly shot, which was perfect.
Yeah.
That's what a guerrilla filmmaker should do, and considering the fact that maybe there was traffic already there, so it didn't really get in the way of the flow. And I love the transitions too. These like transitions where he's walking. And like that one scene, that one transition where after I think he kills Ralph, and that's that whole segment where he's walking from the end, and then he gets
to the camera.
To the camera. I was like, I was like, okay, this works. Like I can't believe it. I actually can't believe that I actually was excited for that one scene, even though it was just him walking. But it was the music. It was the music, the score that really got me. Like, wow, this guy really like lost his mojo, I guess, by doing what he did with to Ralph, because typically that's not what, according to the story, that's not what he did. What he used to do is just stay focused, do the job, and then get out. But like James mentioned, he was thrown off his kilter due to the fact that he got a taste of the normal life. When he went to that party, to his old friend's party, which threw him off his game a little bit. But overall, I loved it. I think it's it does deserve its place in the Criterion collection for sure. So I think the people at Criterion did a great job to find this film and preserve it, because it truly is a great film for any filmmaker that's upcoming to study it and look and really study how this guy, with the minimum budget that he did have, to still be able to make a good film like Blast of Silence.
Yeah, and you mentioned the narration. It's worth mentioning that I think James may have mentioned this, but it's in a different voice than his own voice. So, you're kind of left to wonder if maybe this is how he sees himself, right? But it's not how he actually is. And it's also like, I mean, maybe this means I'm crazy or I need psychological help, but I really related to the narration in the sense that it's this sort of inner critic, that's constantly like judging him, telling him who he is, telling him, and also on the flip side of that, like reassuring him, telling him that he's made good choices, and like there's several like self-deceptive moments like that. There's several moments that are kind of self-delusional, like when he's like, "You could have been an engineer," and then he goes, and then he mentions something about architecture, and he goes, "You could have been an architect." Like he's always telling himself, like, "Oh yeah, this is just the line of work I happen to be in, and I make good money," and blah blah blah. It's also, I think, really successful in that I think a movie like this that has a limited resources to use a device like that, it draws you in immediately, and it's very insular and internal and lonely as a movie.
Yeah.
But that works perfectly for a low budget movie, because it's like, what do we got? We got a guy, we got a city, we can walk around the city. How can we make this interesting? Yeah. These are the shots that Julio mentioned. Excuse me, Julius. I'm sorry. I keep saying that. Guys, I used to know Julius a long time ago, back in, it's complicated, but he used to go by Julio. But anyway, so Yeah, Rockefeller Center. These shots are brilliant.
Very.
And I wish this cinematographer were still alive, because I would love to have a conversation with him and see how
because he
got
really
this,
captured the vastness of New York City, which was what really impressed me with these shots right here, because it was like, wow, he actually managed to capture everything and almost in focus, in deep focus, and he's outside, you know.
Yeah,
which is fantastic.
The whole movie too has like I don't know, it's like a milky gray sort of like soft quality to it. That's at least the exterior shots. That's just kind of dreamlike almost. It's really, even though it's kind of dark subject matter, I think the cinematography is really beautiful in the movie.
It is definitely, it reminded. I definitely, like I said, the like had the French New Wave type of feel to it, I was also like reminded of John Cassavetes in a way, especially his first film Shadows, which has a really raw feel. Like the acting's a little rough, but I don't know, your mind kind of fills in the blanks, you know, for whatever its sort of like shortcomings are because of what it was working with. I don't know, like none of that bugged me. In fact, it kind of made me like it more just for really going for it. And using like what it had at its disposal, what little it had to accomplish so much. I mean, the cinematography is great. I think there's a lot of great visual storytelling in it, since there's so much voiceover, and the voiceover feels like an internal monologue. It's not telling you what's happening. But yeah, I think it allows them to do a lot that they maybe wouldn't have been able to do as much with, having actors of sort of like limited range. Most of the movie is just kind of like visuals and voiceover, which I thought was an interesting choice. And it's weird, like, even though, voiceover tends to be kind of a crutch in screenwriting, like, it really works in this movie at establishing tone, and it never breaks that tone, which is something I really also respected. It's brutal from the beginning to the end, and every time you think he's gonna find some redemption, the opposite happens, and it just doubles down on being the person that he is, the character he is.
It's totally not a crutch in this instance, because when narration is a crutch, it's like you said, it's explaining to the audience what's happening. In fact, I could say that's the difference between the feeling of Arrested Development's first 3 seasons and then the subsequent 4th and 5th seasons, especially the 4th season. Like, the narrator was such a funny part of that show because it was always used to like punch up jokes and kick in the humor. It was never, it was sometimes used to piece things together.
Ron Howard, right?
Mm-hmm. But in season 4, the narrator took on this, like, because the plot was so complex and they had such a complicated production schedule that prohibited actors working together on the same days and everything. The narrator in season 4 to Arrested Development ends up speaking like all the time and just explaining everything to you, and it gets really like grating, and it goes from being a humorous joke punching up device to just that sort of crutch that you're talking about. In this instance, the narrator's telling us something about the character in a really interesting and roundabout way. He's not explaining to us, machinations of the plot. He's telling us about this person.
Yeah, he's even with it possibly being a kind of internal monologue, he's kind of teasing the character in a way. Like, he's like you said, making comments about, different career choices he could have had, or like when he basically gets turned down by the Laurie character. What's the line he says? If you want a woman, buy one in the dark so she doesn't have to see your face. Like, just these like weird like reassurances that are like just very strange. A strange way of like.
It definitely was an insight into I guess what I would say it's safe to say most of us have when we do have our own inner dialogue, when things occur in our everyday lives, where we have our own little justifications ourselves, when we talk about like, man, I should have said this, or I should have done that. And man, if I had just done this, and I would have been able to prove to that person that I have a spine or whatever. And I like that this writer kind of gave the audience a glimpse into this character's mind, as opposed to just showing his actions. You know, like what most screenwriting instructors nowadays will tell you to do when you write a screenplay. It's don't tell, show. But in this instance, he did both. He was able to show and tell at the same time, which made the film for me a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, and as you were playing that clip, Julius, there was that scene where he's walking toward the camera and then it cuts really abruptly to him on the bed with the newspapers. There's a lot of cuts like that in this movie that are abrupt and that almost seem like, oh, we didn't have any interstitial material to put here, so we just like cut straight from this thing to that thing. But again, they lean into that. They don't run away from that. And it ends up being, like James said, feels like a French New Wave, like kind of intentional choice that they're leaning into. And it's really successful. It's funny, as I was mentioning before, all the strengths of the movie. I didn't even mention the editing, but it's also very good.
Definitely. I wonder, like, just watching the clip that Julius put up, it kind of like there was a scene, not just that scene, but another scene where he's putting together his silencer that felt, and just him kind of walking around without a shirt on kind of reminds me of Taxi Driver in a way. And I do wonder if Scorsese was inspired by this film at all. I did some research about the movie online and was kind of bummed to find there's not a lot about it online. Like there isn't a lot of, it doesn't seem like it's a well-known film or a movie that like any big director kind of has gone to bat for. But this has to be a movie that Scorsese would have seen when he was younger.
I had the same thought as I was watching it again this time. I thought Scorsese has had to have seen this movie. Just
for the fact that it takes place in New York and its subject matter. Like this is a movie that he was probably playing outside while it was being shot. I mean, come on. Yeah, and earlier... probably see him in a shot somewhere.
Yeah, little 10-year-old Marty Scorsese. Yeah, Julius mentioned earlier the story, but I want to talk about the plot real quick. It's kind of a thin plot.
That was a great shot, by the way.
That's a great shot. Yeah,
was a fantastic shot. I loved it.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh, I like that. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
It's kind of a thin plot, but it's, you mentioned the walking scenes. There's a lot of walking and following him around. There's a scene like this that's focused entirely on him checking his weapon, assembling it, oiling it. So in a way, it's like there's a lot of anticipation and suspense. So even though there's not a meaty plot, the filmmakers really increase, I guess, the suspense by just kind of lingering on things, but not in a boring way, in a very like edge of your seat kind of way.
No, yeah, for sure. Because what I like specifically about this movie is that you get to follow what an assassin does for a living. Like you get to actually see how he prepares for the assassination. He has to follow his target. He has to make sure he knows his routine. He has to make sure he knows where he goes, what time, how long does it take. So that way he could do his job and not get caught. And it's interesting because it actually reminds me of a short story that I wrote myself, kind of in a similar fashion, where you get to follow the assassin and how they do their work, how they do their job. And when I saw this film, I was like, wow, look at that. That's fantastic. I like those kind of like a fly in the wall type of situation where, you get to see exactly how an assassin does their work, as opposed to like getting into their psychological mind frame, like in some other movies where they explore like what makes this, assassin tick. When in this instance, it's more of a, that's like more of a secondary story. And the primary story is getting the job done, make sure the job is done and getting it done right. But of course it doesn't happen that way. Cause as we all three of us know, in the end, he is taken out because of his I guess wavering commitment to his work.
Well, so, you know what? That's an interesting point too, with following the character throughout, like how he methodically, basically, does his job, like all of the different, aspects of his job, from following the target. And I thought it was really interesting how he was like trying to figure out the best time to pull off the hit, and that was all like very interesting. But it also, I just thought of the Jean-Pierre Melville film, Les Samurai. Have you guys seen that film?
Oh yeah.
And that's a very similar movie. Like I have to imagine that the director saw that, because it came out, maybe 5 to 10 years after this film. So And they're very similar. That film also follows a
That's
doomed
right.
assassin just basically through one job. But he's also like very methodical and very precise about his job. Defines him. It becomes like a key like Michael Mann thing too, like later, just these bad guys that are like defined by their jobs. They are their job.
There's a lot of symbolism in this movie too. Obviously you have that first shot, and can you pull up that first shot, Julius?
Yeah.
In the train tunnel, we start and it's like a speck of light, and then
Yeah.
the speck of light. And I love too that shot is handheld, and that the cameraman is just trying like heck to keep it centered, because it has like a chaos to it, and again an anticipation to it, and you don't know quite what it is until you get closer to it and closer to it. But obviously, like that's like symbolic of the birth canal, right? Like he's being born. And again, spoilers, guys, if we didn't mention it before, but Frankie Bono, baby boy Frankie Bono, is taken out at the end of the movie, and he ends up kind of like in a little pond, like in a marsh, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of covered in water. And I kind of thought, well, it's very womb-like. He's almost like in a fetal position. And it's kind of like the movie comes full circle in that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so, and then I love too, like, I could talk about it, but I love a shot like that where you put the camera down, you just kind of keep it still, and you let that train come in, and you let all the motion take place in front of the camera. There is like moving camera work in this movie, but I also think they know when to keep the camera like dead still at the same time.
Yeah, that opening shot is so arresting, and it establishes a lot of the energy of the movie. It hooked me immediately, and I didn't expect it at all. Like I didn't know anything about this movie. I expected I'd kind of like fall into its groove or whatever. But from that moment, and then it earns that kind of like static, subsequent shot of just like letting the credits roll. But yeah, that opening shot is just such an interesting, compelling idea, and done with very little. Just a guy with a camera, on a train, and it just it establishes so much.
I know. What did you notice, Julius? Like any moments that popped out at you? Like I'll share one moment popped out at me. Like after he pulls off that final hit, he drops $1 into or some money.
The nun, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The nun's cup. That's right. That's right.
But yeah, anything like that stand out to you, Julius?
Oddly enough, is the scene where he gets really aggressive with the what's her name?
Lori.
Lori, yeah.
The Lori character, how she
Poor
was.
Lori.
Yeah, poor Lori. She was just being nice, and he took it. He had the wrong signals. Got the wrong signals. And the reason why that scene stuck out to me is because you got to see a glimpse of how it was difficult for him to be a human being, like just a regular person.
Yeah.
Because he's been so disconnected for so long that when he finally got to reconnect or have an opportunity to reconnect, he wasn't able. He didn't know how to do that. He didn't know how to reconnect anymore. And that scene where he almost violates her, and he catches himself because he almost lost himself to his lower bestial self that he usually is accustomed to. That was for me that was like a turning point for like, okay, this is actually really good. Like we actually get to see his attempt to kind of, hey, maybe this normal life is for me. Maybe there's something here for me to do. And of course, it all falls apart when he goes back to her house, and he finds out that she already has a boyfriend, and that she only was nice to him because she felt sorry for him, because he seemed so lonely. And he was a lonely character, a character who just liked staying alone, but he had a shield. He had a shield up, and then of course, the woman lowered that shield and made him face his humanity. And then, of course, that led to his phone call to him wanting to quit the job. But of course, the boss was like, "Doesn't work that way, buddy. You gotta finish your job." And that leads to the why they got rid of him, because they need assassins who stay cold and distant, not someone who finds their conscience and loses their track on their target.
It seemed like well, first I'll comment on the female character, but it's interesting. She is a femme fatale technically, because she's sort of is part of the ingredients or part of the recipe that brings him to his downfall. But she's not an evil femme fatale. She's actually very well-meaning, and he's sort of self-destructive enough that he take that cue and kind of ends up destroying himself. But you talked. Yeah,
let me add one more thing. The other scene that stuck out to me too was that game scene. That game where they're playing the
peanut pushing.
Peanut pushing, man.
That was a weird scene. That felt like something right out of a David Lynch movie. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating.
What I liked about it was that once again you got to see that this cold-blooded killer still had that element of humanity within him still, and he was able to play along at the party. Like, come on, man, just join us. Like, have fun, have a good time. Yeah. And him dancing and all that stuff. So it was cool. It was cool to see that part of that character. And of course those are the two scenes that stuck out to me the most in this movie.
And that's where that inner voice telling him, "Oh, you want to be alone. This is how you like it. You like to be alone." It's like that's really the key, probably inner conflict that he's experiencing, right? Is like, does he want to live this life of solitude and isolation, or does he want?
That narration always comes up when he fails at like having some kind of personal connection. Like there's a reassurance of like, see, this is why you shouldn't even try. And it's it's like kind of the tragedy of the movie, or the irony of it.
Yeah. It's a deep movie.
It is a deep movie. It really is.
It really is. And it's one of those, in other words, Sean, this was a great choice.
This was a really great choice. Yeah.
Because it was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting this kind of movie, and by the end of it, I was like, "Wow, this was actually really simple, but great." That's what made this even better.
It's the kind of movie also that I think it just makes you kind of like it makes it feel possible to go make a movie. It makes you just want to pick up a camera and go do it. I think it'd be a great film to watch if you're into wanting to learn how to make movies. It's the kind of movie that makes you go, oh wow, like I have an iPhone in my pocket and I can just basically go out and make a movie. I just need to know what I'm doing. I need to have a good idea of where to put that camera and what kind of story I want to tell, which this guy clearly had. And very limited resources, but the movie was never boring. And it's so concise, and it's it's in and it's out. It doesn't waste any time. And it keeps you kind of like guessing at where it's going, even though the ending seems very inevitable. It's kind of being telegraphed from the beginning that's how things are going to end up. I don't know. Like I felt pretty like riveted through the whole thing.
Yeah, you're right about it being telegraphed in the sense that it definitely felt like a tragedy waiting to happen. And and when he makes that call after he accomplishes the hit, he makes the call, and then the voice goes, "And now time to get your money." Like. That was like, no, don't get your these people don't like you. You've wronged these people. Like, why are you gonna go get your money? Unless it's like one of those one more job and then I'm out, which is kind of what it was.
Been shut down again.
Oh wow.
Such a good show too, and then damn it. Okay. Well, I guess. I mean, I was hoping the volume would help us, would save us, but I guess that wasn't enough. And this is from a downloaded video too, by the way. So it wasn't like this is from YouTube or anything like that.
Well, it could. I don't know if this is an option, but we keep talking about it, and then maybe for like on YouTube, you could cut the video out if that's possible. Like for the parts.
I think we're on now. It's just they cut us off while.
Yeah, well,
the clips.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, well, anyway.
Great movie.
Oh, well, Joseph McCorker says he can still see us, so maybe some people were blocked off and some people weren't.
Oh, wow. All right.
All right, we'll just keep going. But let's just keep at it then. Screw it. It's live. Let's just do it.
Yes. Okay. Where were we? Yes, the ending was kind of telegraphed from the beginning.
Yeah, and it surprised me how short the movie is, considering how powerful it is. And I like that about the movie, that it's not like, hey, while we have you, let's do some more character work. Like,
Right.
I feel like filmmakers do that a lot, where they're like, oh, I have them, I have to milk this. This movie doesn't milk anything.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Right to the point. It's like a steady train ride, right? Like, no pun intended. Just the train takes off and it just goes to its destination, and that's it.
There are moments though, like especially everything having to deal with the Laurie character, where I thought the movie was going down a much different path, and where it ends up, I think, pays off just really great. Just not being what I expected. First of all, the assault came like kind of out of nowhere, and I was like, whoa, didn't expect that in this movie.
Yeah.
Right. But what results after that, like the phone call is just painful to watch. And then when he shows up at her door, like that's even worse, and that again is just like one of those like emasculating moments that feels like right out of a Scorsese movie, because the first thing he does after that is he goes and he shoots that guy in what is a brutal death. The guy's just carrying a panda bear, just wants to get his mistress a panda bear, and he gets shot in the face like 3 times. And then that's not enough. He has to kick him over on the way out. It's brutal.
Very brutal. And obviously it was because he was pissed. He was pissed off, that this guy has this beautiful mistress and married, with children. So it's like, that was definitely like an extra smackdown, I guess you could say, for having the good life that he now realized that he wanted when he had that moment with Laurie before it was shut down.
I love the way he describes him. He calls him a second-string syndicate boss with too much ambition and a mustache to hide the fact that he has lips like a woman. The kind of face you hate.
Yeah,
that was a great line. I was like, whoa. What is this movie?
Yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. I was like, this is great. I love these kind of noir films. And, I didn't know it was 1961 until I looked it up, and I was like, okay, yeah, so you're right, Sean. It came late in the game, but you could tell this was someone who loved noir and wanted to make his own version of noir film, and he got to do it, which I was happy about. I know in the end, it was a Universal picture, so I'm assuming this was definitely a B movie that was probably produced by Universal Pictures, and then I'm assuming they probably gave him the rights after. I guess the movie didn't do well, I'm guessing. I don't know too much about the behind the scenes of this film. Like, I don't know what do you by chance know what happened to this filmmaker after this one, or is this his only one and done movie and that was it?
I don't know a lot about it, but just judging from his IMDb, it looks like he moved on to directing in TV quite a bit.
Had a prolific television career, yeah. And he's still alive.
He's still alive? No way.
Yeah, dude.
He's in his 90s. It's nuts. Yeah, he's still alive.
Oh. Maybe I could have him on my podcast.
Hell yeah.
Dude, you should. That'd be great. Yeah,
that'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so he was a television director. Well, he's had a good career then for himself.
I would love to see Criterion, even though they did release the DVD, to put it up on their Criterion channel. It should be more readily available, and I really would like to see like a better, more polished print of it than what I saw online.
Yeah, for sure. They do have a DVD release of it.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. I have the Criterion channel, and it wasn't on there. So Joseph McCorkle says, scary thought, 61 was 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't remind us, Joseph McCorkle, please.
That means
don't.
most of those people shopping for Christmas presents and those beautiful shots are all dead, or most of them.
Yes,
anyway.
Most of them anyway. Hopefully. I mean, that's kind of bleak to think about.
Oh,
it's a bleak movie. I don't know.
We gotta keep the theme of bleakness, up in
exactly.
this But anything else? I really don't know. What's up, ID Crisis? Good to see you again.
What?
I wrote down a lot of this narration. Another great line: "A killer who doesn't kill gets killed." Like his little like mantra towards the end before he does his hit. The movie's filled with those. Like most of the narration is just gold. It's great.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get an opportunity to direct any more films, because I think if he would just been given the chance to keep directing and writing films, I think he would have been a pretty good director. I think a film director.
I agree.
Maybe I mean I don't know. I can't really. We can only speculate, but based on this movie being his first film, I was like, you can only go up from this.
Well,
movie.
I mean, television is a great career. I mean, he probably made a fortune with how many TV shows he directed. So, and it looks like he had steady work after. So, yeah, I mean, this movie is obviously the work of a talented filmmaker with a real like vision. And so, yeah, I'm sure this became kind of his calling card.
Let's talk real quick about Ralphie, aka Fat Ralph.
Yeah, that might be hard again. Okay. All right.
The part where Frankie was
gonna cost you.
I
like how slow moving he was. Like not slow moving, but slow talking.
Yeah.
He was in that scene.
Yeah, it's funny. He reminded me, like every time I watch this movie, that guy reminds me of like someone I know, but I can't place who it is. You know, he just seems so familiar to me. But yeah, I thought that actor made some really interesting choices. And then of course he had a great character to work with, like with his gerbils and his rats and stuff.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, James?
Well, no, it was interesting because he came across as like kind of a weird creep in his apartment when he's first introduced. But then you realize like, oh no, this guy likes to hang out at the club. And like, then he tries to like blackmail Frankie. And it's like, oh crap. And it's weird too that he got himself so drunk that he forgot to lock his door when he went back to his apartment.
Right.
And then like Frankie goes for an axe. Like he's just not messing around.
Yeah.
Like,
that shot. Well, it's funny because like he says, Ralphie says to Frank, you're nothing without a gun in your fist. And it's almost like he takes that personally, and he gets that axe and he looks at the sharp end of that axe, the little pointy end of it. I'm not an axe smith, so I don't know technical terms, anatomy of axes, but yeah, it's a great scene.
Also,
here we go. Oh wait, cop, you're gonna get shut down again, Julie.
No, these are pictures. These are stills.
Okay.
I'm not gonna play the clip because, well, I mean, maybe I could play like 30 seconds of it. Just give me a second.
I don't think we should tempt fate, to be honest, but
I'm gonna tempt them.
Yeah,
Screw you, YouTube. I'm protecting the copyright law. We're commentating on the film.
Well, now we're going to get shut down because you're making fun of YouTube. That's
Screw you, Susan Wachiki, whatever you pronounce her name. I don't know. I hate her.
Well, yeah. So
okay, this just got real. So
it's all good. It's all good.
I don't even know who that is, but I'm assuming she's like the CEO.
She's the president. She's the president of YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, the scene. Oh, that's what I was going to say. How hard was it to get a gun back then? Like he's charging him $500 in 1961 dollars. Like that looks like the budget for this movie. Like that's a lot of money for a gun.
I think I don't know what the gun laws were in New York back in 1961, but I'm assuming they were still pretty hardcore gun what do you call it? What's the
restrictions?
Term? Gun restrictions, yeah, but there's the other term that they use.
Gun control.
Gun control, thank you. Strong gun control laws back in the 60s because crime was still pretty high in New York during that time, I'm assuming.
I assumed. Let's all fill in our assumptions.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. Let's sell.
I assumed that this is his normal procedure as a hitman, right? That he doesn't like go buy a gun or at a store or like use his own gun. He sources it, he uses it for one job, and then he disposes of it.
That's right.
And then maybe the silencer was the thing that was hard, especially expensive, because that seemed to be the sticking point for Ralph. So,
yeah, but it's basically like a thin pipe and some electrical tape. I don't know. The whole thing just didn't seem like it was worth $500, but yeah.
Why don't you go fabricate a silencer, James. If
I don't have a reason to. I have a job.
You can buy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the character of Ralph, and the moment he starts saying hello to his rats, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, a weird little character trait, but like that's kind of like something that's sort of like quintessential with film noir, is that there's always like these weird sort of like weird kind of like underground characters that have like weird little quirks about them, right?
Yeah, and then speaking of him, like that internal monologue again, it's like Frank's internal monologue hates Ralph because he's fat. He talks about how he hates,
and then he starts fat shaming him in the club. It was like uncomfortable.
But he talks about how he hates the target. He always manages to hate the target. And then there's that scene where the narrator starts talking about Harlem and starts talking about hatred in context of race. And you just get the sense that this guy is like filled with hate. Like,
yeah, you're right.
And again,
which should fuel a cold-blooded assassin, right? Hate. Why else would you not become an assassin? Just like that film. Have you seen that movie Grosse Point Blank with John Cusack?
I saw it when I was like a kid.
Well, in that movie, he plays an assassin in the same likes as our character here. What's his character's name in this movie?
Frankie Bono.
Frankie Bono.
Baby boy Frankie Bono.
But the cool thing about that movie is that John Cusack's character disappears after high school and doesn't come back until the high school reunion. And the reason why is because he explains to ID Crisis Mini Driver that the reason why he left and disappeared is because he one day woke up wanting to kill somebody. So he joined the army so that way he could legally kill someone. And then after he left the army, that's when he became a professional assassin, because he had a mental break. He had a great like a psychosis, like almost like a mental psychosis type of deal. And then in the high school reunion, when he finds his humanity again with reuniting with Mini Driver and regaining that humanity back, that's when he decided to stop being an assassin. So, but yeah, I would imagine in order to be an assassin, you would have to have hate in your heart to be able to be okay murdering people for money.
I can't remember if we brought it up yet, but I mean, there is a big thing about him growing up in an orphanage. And whenever he's reminded of that, it's almost like he's kind of going back to his humanity a little bit. But then he realizes like all the, rough and tumble things he's been involved with. Because there's something about a parking lot and like something about a job he worked where like someone was treated unfairly. I don't know, sent him on a life of crime. I can't remember exactly the way it was put in the narration, but there's a clear line between like, he kind of was like led astray from a young age, and that led to where he's at. Because like the reason like Lori even like takes him to her apartment is because she feels bad for him, and she's trying to like shake him out of whatever he's into, and obviously he interprets that the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out for him.
Yeah. I think the self-delusion of that narration culminates when he's surveilling his target, and he's standing on top of the building, and the narrator says something like I'm God, basically.
Yes.
Almost like he says it's almost like God arranged this, like you were going to be the end of this guy, and this is his recompense. And then he just goes even further and says, yeah, maybe you are God, It's like, wow, this guy's got a big range of from self-hatred to self-delusional sort of overconfidence.
And also, didn't the shot when he was in the roof kind of remind you a little bit of The Godfather Part 2, when Robert De Niro's character is on the roof following the Don as he's going back to his apartment in New York?
That's a good point. Yeah.
I caught that when I saw that. I was like, hey, that kind of resembles that shot from Godfather Part 2 when the young Corleone is on the roof, eyeing his target, the Don wearing the white suit.
The shot you pointed out where he's sticking the gun out.
Yeah.
It looked a lot like that shot from Is it Goodfellas? Right, the shot of Pesci.
Kinda no.
That one's different. It might be the one. Isn't there one where like
that shot that you're thinking of, Sean, that was a homage to the Great Train Robbery.
Yeah.
There's one
Yeah,
where Lorraine
because-
Bracco is pointing the gun directly at the
Yeah,
camera.
there you go. That scene
That's
probably
similar,
yeah, because it had the gun was in focus, but then she was a little bit blurred due to the I think here, hold on, I have the shot here of what I'm talking about. Not the Goodfellas shot, but the roof shot. There you go.
Yeah. That turn.
That was a great shot, by the way.
That is a great shot. Yeah.
But yeah,
take it down before the
it
president of
reminded me
YouTube takes his name.
Yeah, I know. It's smack you in the mouth.
I love the scene of him escaping down like the fire escape as well, and then kind of hiding out and trying to evade the bodyguards and all of that. Like all of that, like just on location cinematography was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Joseph McCorkle says, that's the problem I've always had with movies with 1,000 henchmen. Are there really that many street urchins from broken homes who grow up into a life of crime as assassins and hitmen?
Or like John Wick, where everybody's actually a hitman.
Yeah, a secret society of hitmen.
I think
pay each other
everyone
with gold coins.
I think in that world, just everybody is a hitman. Like even the kids are hitmen.
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird alternate universe. Yeah.
I have to what I also liked about this film too was how grounded it was. It felt like at times I felt like I was watching a documentary a little bit, like following like an assassin in his everyday life, like in modern day documentaries where you follow a person's life every day. So it was kind of really ahead of its time. I would say in the style of filmmaking, the way this director and writer did with this film. So yeah, man, like I said, great film. Great choice. I was pleasantly surprised by it. And this is a cinephile's dream, to find a movie like this that you haven't seen and watch it and be like, wow, cool. This is great. Like this is actually a treat, and being able to talk about it. We've been talking for a little bit close to an hour now, and we're still finding things, still catching things here and there from the movie, which is a sign of a great film. So great choice, Sean. Kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. In addition to it just not it being a movie that I hadn't seen, just the delight of a movie that I'd never heard of, starring people and made by people that I'd never heard of. Like I wasn't really familiar with anything about this movie. I had no idea it existed or anybody involved existed. So that made it also just like kind of this, this unexpected movie.
I can't remember who the writer was, but there was a writer who wrote down advice for younger writers. And they said, don't read any writers who are alive, basically. Like, don't compare yourself to like people now, compare yourself to like the greatest of all time. Right. And right. I think that's what's so great about film is that even though there was like, 100 movies made this year, and I only saw a handful of them. I love going back and reaching into the past and finding gems like this, and to know that there's 1895. So there's 125 years of cinema that you can reach back into.
Oh yeah.
And, it's just nice. It's nice to know that all this stuff is there to discover. So when I discovered this movie, it made me wonder like what else is out there that I still haven't even heard of that was made in the 50s or the 60s or whenever.
Yeah, and then also just the fact that it was so hard to make movies back then. Not only were they expensive, but it's hard to lug a camera that heavy around and be limited by like a single magazine of film that you have to shoot with, and you have to make every shot count. And yeah, like movies were so much harder to make back then, which makes you appreciate what they're going for, even if you're like, oh, I've seen so many films achieve that in a much more, convincing way. But you almost appreciate it more when like they really had to put that extra effort to be, to like I said, to really utilize their limited resources.
Yeah,
I was listening to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, absolutely. And then it forces you to be creative, because you're like you said, you're limited. So when you're limited, you have to work your way around that. And a lot of the time you do get gems. Like for instance, the most famous one that I could think of off the top of my head is the scene of Midnight Cowboy, when Dustin Hoffman and John Boy are walking down the street, and that cab, the taxi cab almost hits Dustin Hoffman, and he's, "Hey, I'm walking here." That scene was ad-libbed because he almost literally got hit by a taxi cab driver, but they couldn't redo the shot because they were shooting it guerrilla style because they couldn't get permits to shoot on the New York sidewalk. So they were shooting that scene. I think John Schlesinger, the director, was inside a van filming the scene with them, with microphones attached to their shirts, and it worked, because they couldn't say cut. He couldn't say cut and redo the shot. So Dustin Hoffman, being the professional that he was, he just stuck with it. And after he almost got hit by the the taxi driver,
I had no idea that was ad-libbed. That's great.
Yeah, it was totally ad-libbed because if you watch the scene closely, you can hear he loses the voice, the Ratzel Rizzle voice, for that second, and he has his regular voice on. But then after the taxi driver drives off, he gets back into character, and he gets that high pitched Ratzel Rizzle voice back, and he continues the scene. John Boyle obviously was also a professional, so he kept that scene going as well. So yeah, I'm a proponent of like being limited, because that forces you to be creative, because you have limited time, limited money, and limited resources. So you have to use your creative juices to work overtime, so that way you could create some fantastic stuff. And like we talked in the Back to the Future trilogy, that's exactly what happened with the first Back to the Future film as well. Like Zemeckis had to rely on Alan Silvestri to make a great score to make the movie feel big when it really wasn't as big when he first produced it. So yeah, I'm all about that. And this film is indication of that for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know that we have a ton more to discuss, but you mentioned the score earlier and Alan Silvestri. I did want to say about this score, it's like very aggressive, and it kind of bursts out of nowhere sometimes. Like, it'll just kind of be meandering along, and then you'll hear this like, and then what about that scene in the nightclub with the beatnik band and the bongo?
Oh, I know, man. That was great, dude.
Yeah, I loved it. Loved it. Yeah. It made the film feel very authentic. Just like really captures a time and a place that they found a way to organically, bring into the story. Really, really like that.
Yeah, and then the lyrics of the song that he sings too. It's like that second song he sings about how he wears black because his baby, broke his heart or whatever. Like he can't get his mind off of this girl, and it sort of like matches what Frank is going through at that very moment.
See, we keep finding more treasures within this script, and that's a sign of a well-written script. Is you got to pack as much as you can, not on the surface of things, but underneath. Like you mentioned the song, right? That's a nice little. That happened after, right? That scene in the nightclub, that happened after his when he finds out that Lori has a boyfriend, or was that before?
I think it's before he finds out she has a boyfriend. It might be after he tries to assault her. Okay. But yeah, it's full of gems. But thanks for letting me pick the movie. And
ID Crisis, y'all have gone eclectic. Hey man, ID Crisis, we're cinephiles here, so we are not closed off to watching any kind of film, be it American or international. We're not we're all about cinema, and be it bad or good cinema, we still enjoy it, because sometimes a lot of bad cinema ends up being so bad that it's good, like the movie The Room with Tommy Wiseau's The Room. Terrible movie, but fun to watch because it's so bad it's good. So
bad.
I know, right?
It's a great movie.
But we are definitely an eclectic. We have an eclectic taste in cinema. So you'll find that out as you keep on watching the show. But yeah, go on. What you were gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I had a cousin who was like, "Oh, have you seen The Room?" And I was like, no. And he's like, you have to see it. And he literally like forced me, like sat me down, was like, watch this with me. And like as the movie went on, I just kept resenting my cousin more and more as the movie. I was just like, what? And he was just like, and I was just like, this is so painful. Like, I mean, I get it now. I get why it's a cult thing and everything,
Right.
but it was just like, why are you showing me this? It's so bad.
I made the mistake of watching that movie like alone. I just had heard about its reputation, so I flipped it on at home by myself, and I was like, it was such an alienating experience. And then the second time I watched it was with a large group of people, and I was like, "Oh, this is when this movie sings." Like, now it's a masterpiece.
Yes. I was there. I was there that night when we watched it for movie night, and it was the best night, one of the best movie nights we ever had, because it was just great to just laugh and just like, what the hell are we watching here? You're tearing me apart, Lisa. Tell me you know who Neil Breen is. Uh-oh. I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
Sean, do you know who Neil Breen is? I think ID Crisis is going to show it. I think ID Crisis is trying to show us up.
Uh-oh.
No, I don't know Neil Breen. Let's look at his movies.
For me, boasting about our eclectic taste in films, but if he is a filmmaker, ID Crisis, then let us know, and we'll definitely put him on the list of potential films we should watch if he is a director.
Oh, he's a filmmaker.
But Sean, you have anything else to add to this movie that you chose for us to watch this past week?
No. I think we can keep it short and sweet. This was just like the movie does. We can keep it short and sweet and just say right to the point. This was a great movie.
James, any last words about the film?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all. Great movie, great choice.
Yes. If you guys have not seen it, it's called The Blast of Silence. It was released in 1961. It is a B movie noir, and it is written and directed by Alan Barron. Very underrated. Now we know a very underrated filmmaker that now I'll be more than happy to say that if you are an up-and-coming filmmaker of any kind, screenwriter or director or cinematographer, I highly recommend you check this movie out and study it, because you can learn a lot from this independent film, because he utilized it seemed to me anyway that he utilized every I guess thing that was given to him in terms of budget, in terms of time, in terms of his equipment to shoot this film, and he made a very good little film that actually is very powerful and heavy at times, but ahead of his time, in my opinion. Even though it came late into the game in the noir genre, it's still impactful. And a lot like other noir films that have come before it. So I highly recommend you check it out if you are a cinephile. It is in black and white, so millennials don't get surprised or mad if you watch this movie and you're upset that it's in black and white. Black and white films deserve some love too. So it's a great film. I highly recommend it. Let's just give it you want to give it a rating system or not? You want to just get rid of that?
I like rating. Dude, rating things is fun. Yeah.
Let's do screw it. Let's do 10 out of 1 through 10. What's the number you give it to for recommendation?
I give this movie a 10.
Oh, okay. All right. 10 right off the bat. James?
This feels like an 8. This feels like a solid 8. Yeah, I don't like to hand out 10s to every movie, or 9s for that matter. Like to save those. But yeah, this is a movie I could even see myself watching again. Solid movie.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you, James. 8. I also give it an 8 because, like I said, I had some problems with the film, but like I said, I excused it because it was his first film and he was limited, but it's still impactful. So yeah, I would say 8 because he had the right idea. Like the characters, like for instance, like Ralph, collecting rats and keeping them in cages. The music, the whole story, everything was just beautifully written. So yeah, I would say an 8 for recommendation if you are looking to watch a film noir film, especially if you've seen them all, because there's a lot of them out there. But this one was the one I didn't know anything about, so I was happy to watch it, and more than likely I'll probably watch it again because it was definitely a blast to watch. See what I did there? Yeah, wink, wink.
Yeah. And
So,
speaking of blast of silence, do you want to say what the next movie is?
Yes. James contacted me earlier and convinced me, because I was going to pick next week's movie, but since this falls into the anniversary, before I say the name, what's 25th anniversary, 30th anniversary?
No, this film was maybe a bit of counter programming, released on Valentine's Day, 1991.
Okay, 1991. Wow, that
30
was
years. Yeah.
30 years. So a 30-year anniversary of Silence of the Lambs. So we'll be watching Silence of the Lambs and talking about Silence of the Lambs next week. So hopefully you guys will join us next week for that show, because Silence of the Lambs is definitely one of my favorite films. And Sean, have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
I've never seen it.
You're gonna love it.
You're in for a treat. But I will warn you, it is pretty violent. I don't know if you're squeamish or not, but there are some scenes where there is some blood and stuff, guts and stuff and what have you, but not much, but it's more of a psychological thriller, more so. But
I've heard it.
Other than that, yeah, there you go.
Hitchcockian.
Wild 88. Got it right on the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I had asked my brother, that's Wild About 88, if he wanted to call into the show, and we were just about to go off the air. So I don't know if there's...
if you want, we can have him on if you like.
Are you guys up for it?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Okay. Well, I don't think he's seen Blast of Silence, so he'll have to talk about something else. I'll interview him.
Yeah.
Wait, right now, right? You're talking about right now?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Here you go. I'm gonna throw the link in the chat. If anyone else wants to come on, we'll have you on shortly, because we don't want to stay on too long, but we'll try to keep it as short as possible. But yes, next week will be Silence of the Lambs, and we'll talk about it then, because like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. It won numerous awards, and it did break box office records at the time, because it was something unique and different, and it still holds up. I watched it recently, I think about 6 months ago, and it still is as strong and great as ever. So it's aged gracefully, and I'm excited to talk about it. So hopefully, Sean, hopefully you will enjoy it, and I'm excited to see what your reaction will be, because it won. It's one of the few movies, even though I hate the Oscars, it's one of the few movies that won all 4 major awards: best movie, best director. 5. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
5. Director, film, actor, actress, and what was the 5th one? Writing,
screenplay.
Screenplay. So that's a feat in itself. So it's worth to watch. I think I saw Wild 88 go on, but he got out.
Oh no.
So Wild 88, try again, and I'll have ID Crisis on. Is it okay if I have ID Crisis on for a bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sean? Oh wait, hold on. I think he's back. Sorry, ID Crisis. Let me get Wild 88 in here first.
I'm just looking at the comments. Oh, is Wild About 88 on?
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay, sure is.
hello.
What up,
Yeah,
D-Rad?
Brad, you're on.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. This is
Yeah, man, no problem.
this is an honor.
Thanks for having us. It's
my
an honor to
second-
have you on the show.
My second appearance.
Yeah. What's up, buddy?
I always get
Oh,
off.
actually,
I always
Sean
get off
wasn't
at,
interviewed you.
It's okay.
I always get off around 9 my time in Arizona, so 8 your time, and I always get to catch the end of the show. So I enjoy
cool.
it. Thank you guys.
Oh, thanks for
Nice.
showing up to the show and actually enjoying it. Yeah, it's great. It's fun. It's fun talking to other cinephiles and we get to talk about films that we love, and can praise and spread the goodness of cinema, because I think not many people appreciate the medium as much as the three of us do. So I'm glad that you join us and enjoy the show.
Oh, I love it. I can't get enough of it. I miss
Hey,
going to the movies more with COVID. I just still go sometimes, but I always make sure there's no one in the theater.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
Can't
B-Rad,
say I
have
blame
you
you.
seen Silence of the Lambs?
I have, yes. One time. I don't remember and I'm not a big horror fan. I don't know if you really consider that. Would you consider Silence of Lambs a horror film?
It
Guys?
falls into that category. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Horror
horror
not too.
suspense.
maybe?
Yeah, I would say yeah, but not in the same sense like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like Nightmare on Elm Street or anything like that. But it's like teetering. It's like right there on the line, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a good. What I liked about it, I remember liking the movie, but it was like a good mystery, like thriller.
Yes.
And I think I saw one of the prequels, or like Hannibal. Was that a prequel?
No, I think
No,
that
that's
was
a
the sequel.
sequel.
That's a
That's a
sequel. That
sequel.
happened after Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, so I saw that too, and I thought that was all right. But Silence of the Lambs, yeah, I mean, I could see why people talk about it to this day as being one of the classic films, because I hadn't seen it till just maybe 10 years ago.
That reminds me of what Brad's told me was his favorite movie was Parasite. Isn't that right, Brad?
Well, I don't.
Oh, really?
No, I mean that's a tall tale that Sean's.
So we did Parasite.
telling.
We did Parasite recently, and Brad, basically, when Parasite won the Oscar for Best Picture, Brad got mad. He was like, "I don't get it. The movie was dumb." So
Oh,
defend
really?
yourself, Brad.
Really, Brad?
Well, I don't know if it was dumb. I think what it was is I went into it. My buddy Martine kept telling me how good it was, and he says I've already seen it 3 times, and we should go see it. And then I'm like, okay, well. So we went, and at that point, when someone's hyped it that much, I did find it, again, it was like a nice mystery thriller. You didn't really know what was going on. And I need to see it again, but I didn't think that, I just didn't get the love for why everyone loved it so much. But I only saw it once.
Well,
Did you watch
why
our
didn't
video?
you? Well, why didn't you think it deserved the love? Like, what was it that you felt was like, like it was alright, but what made you, I guess, not understand why so many people loved it when it came out?
I think what it was is there was, there's a lot of social commentary in the movie, and I thought that it was like they tried to make it, and like what I interpreted as it's the characters that were hiding out in the house,
Yeah.
they were just bad people. Like they kind of made them out to be the heroes just because they were like the working class people of society. And I'm not saying that the people that lived in the big mansion were great people either, but it just seemed to me that it was a movie just full of horrible people. Now, I mean, there's movies like that all the time. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is the master at that. But
Hateful Eight? What?
yeah, Hateful Eight. I hate
All of those characters are likable. What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't say likable. Likable is you could be likable and still despicable, like Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
But
Or Tony Danza. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, but that was my
actor?
interpretation of it. But I saw it. That was one of the last movies I think I probably saw before COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to watch it again. I'm not saying it. It was definitely a great film. It just wasn't my cup of tea. How about that?
Okay,
I absolutely respect that. There's also a thing that happens that you get so just worn out from hearing about the same movie, like scooping up every award and breaking records and stuff, that when you finally get around to watching it, it's hard to break through you know, all of that hype. And sometimes, yeah, like there's been plenty of movies that get a lot of attention at the Oscars. Birdman was actually one of those movies
Sure.
where when I finally got around to watching, I was like, this is the movie. This is the one everyone's talking about. And I actually kind of like removed from its hype initially and the Oscars that it won. I don't know. I feel like that's one of those movies that doesn't benefit from winning a Best Picture, because then you're like, oh, but look what else was nominated, and those are better movies. But yeah, like I don't know. I think that Parasite is one of those movies that will stand the test of time. Give it another watch, maybe. You know, a few months down the road.
Well, one thing that I will say is, my friend Martine, I am totally guilty of doing what he did. Like when I see a film that I think is just amazing, I'm screaming from the rooftops. I'm telling all my friends at work, "Oh, you got to see this movie!" And then there was one time, it was actually quite satisfying. There was someone at work, and we were talking movies, and I said, "You know what's a really good movie? You got to check it out. It's called Warrior. Have you guys seen Warrior?"
I haven't seen it.
No, but is that the wait? Okay, now I'm kind of confused. Is that the one with the cage fighting movie?
Yes,
cage fighting?
It's like It
Gavin
doesn't look
O'Connor
like
directed.
It doesn't look like a kind of movie that because I'm a big sports guy, but MMA is not my. I hate to keep bringing it up. Not my cup of tea. Anyway,
it's all good.
Brad, let me say this about Brad. He's a very specific cup of tea.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
His tea palate is very refined. Very refined.
Okay, all right. Do you guys mind if I add another person in here?
Sure.
Well, let me just finish real quick.
No. You'll still be on, Brad. You'll still be on. I'm just gonna
okay.
add another person. Okay, here we go. ID crisis.
So anyway, I told this
Hey,
girl at work. I said, "Yeah, you should check out this movie."
I'm going to shut up and listen to everything that B-Red has to say. I've been stocking it up. I've been listening. And I'm going to make sure that everybody goes to bed on time.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Brad.
What's up, everybody? What's happening?
Hey guys.
All right.
So anyway, I told this girl at work, "Yeah, you got to see this movie. It's incredible." Not thinking that she'd ever watch it. The next day she comes in, she goes, "Brad, I watched the movie. You're right. It was great. I cried at the end." And I'm like, "You watched it?" And I couldn't believe that I convinced someone to do that, you know. But anyway, that's my little story. And my cup of tea is Trenta Black Iced Tea, too sweet and low.
That is very, very particular.
What's up, ID Crisis?
What is happening? How are you guys doing? I got hang loose, and I got this, and I got this. Because no, thumb out means something totally different than thumb in. Warrior was an awesome movie. I loved that movie. The tension between the family members and the backstory of Tom Hardy's character. If you haven't seen it, it's great. Some of that
I've never seen it. I need to watch it.
Yeah, I never seen it.
But, you know, I mean, there are a lot of fighting movies out there that aren't about the external fight as much as they are about the internal fight, and I cannot recommend highly enough Red Belt.
I've seen Red Belt.
Right?
Yeah, many years ago. But I vaguely remember it.
That's the movie that made me a David Mamet fan. I started looking for everything David Mamet after that. And then I think Julius may have been on my stream the other night when I pulled up the One Man Can Do What Another Man Can Do from The Edge, written by David Mamet. Great stuff. The Warrior is one of those movies. It has layers, and I love layers. It's one of the things I love about Christopher Nolan films. He does not assume that the audience needs to be spoon-fed a complicated story. You can take a Christopher Nolan film. If you can do Memento, then you can do everything else.
At this point, he doesn't even believe the audience needs to be spoon-fed audible dialogue. He's just like, throw it out the window.
He's that visually good. And as far as the Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme, right?
Yes, Jonathan Demme is directed. Yeah.
I did not see that movie until it had been on cable for like 3 months, and that dates me, and it also dates the movie because that thing came out long before streaming was a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I think it was 1991. If I'm not
91,
if
yeah.
I'm not
Right,
mistaken, yeah,
exactly.
1991.
I was only legally able to drink that year.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that I hadn't already. I'm just but it was one of those things. You guys were talking about hype before, and it was the same thing. It was like Pink Floyd. I need to be able to absorb certain things on my own if they're going to be as deep as everybody else says they are. Shut up about that movie long enough so that I can take it in on my own, because it is a really good movie. The second one, which is a Ridley Scott film, is really good too. But it's one of those things. It's like, if everybody could just shut up about Hannibal Lecter, Sir Anthony Hopkins playing a serial killer. And right, exactly. Just be quiet.
I was just putting my pinky up. You know, putting my
I thought
pinky
you were
up.
doing one of these again. Well, this is why I like to drink my tea. But seriously, be quiet for a second so that we can all absorb this movie. Everybody else, shut up. I don't want to be a normie while I'm watching this. That's all I'm trying to say.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Fair
for
enough.
letting me get that out.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Right. Well, it was.
These hinged things. I can't drop it.
Well, you shouldn't drop it because you know
No,
that looks like an expensive
It's
microphone.
the only
You want to
reason
break
that
that.
it's up here on this contraption is because I'm that clumsy.
Yeah.
All right.
All
I'm
right.
done. No, seriously, this is one of the best Fridays ever. You guys are lending me into a stream. I'm happy to help out if, in fact, that's what I'm doing.
Hell yeah.
You are, and
We
be
like
rad.
to, we
You
like to
helped
have
out
people
too.
on here.
Hey guys, my connection is real bad. I think I'm gonna go, but I'll talk to you next week. I'll see you. Thanks.
Yeah, Brad.
Sounds good.
Okay,
I guess
I wanted to give him some hey, join us next week, and we can talk some more about Signs of the Lambs.
he was talking to us through a crystal ball. He was like, I'm not going to make it to the end of this.
Yeah. Gone.
No, Brad, if you are listening now, or if you listen to the replay, please come back next week and we'll have you back on so we could talk some more about Silence of the Lambs. And if you watch it again this week, then we'll be more than happy to have you back on and we could talk some more about it. Sean, I'm excited for you to watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
going to
me
be
too.
great. And
Poor Brad. We knew him well.
Oh no.
I know
Shakespeare reference. I get it.
I know it's just sitting there. This is the first time I've ever used it for anything constructive.
So you bought that online, just waiting to make a Hamlet reference at some point.
No, I seriously, I actually did use it. It's one of those things where like it's cool to have in the studio, and if you're having a hard time with head angles, you know.
Oh, okay, yeah, for a drawing reference.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the teeth is missing. When I moved out of my old shop, I packed it up in a box, brought it back to the house, and just the other day I was like, because 4 of the teeth are removable, only 4. It's like some planned out thing or whatever. But I used it on one painting. I sold it on Etsy like a month ago. And I was really surprised. It was again on a Friday, totally unexpected. Sold a piece of art in a place that I never expected to sell it, and then realized that the Etsy fees are astronomical and made me second guess selling anything on Etsy again. But what are you going to do? I'll take the win. Exactly.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up then. With that said, we're gonna wrap it up. ID Crisis, thanks for joining us for the little brief moment and talk about and venting on why hype can be a killer.
It is. It's terrible. I still can't get through that 1989 Batman movie. Nobody would shut up about it.
I can't say I blame you.
I know, like seriously, how far you're leaving right now? You're leaving like right now? Like I just showed up to this party. Please, let's continue.
We've been on for over an hour. We've been on for over an hour. We gotta call it a night.
I was playing Scrabble with the kids. Happy birthday to your daughter too. I bet that was a good time yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Ram that family time in there whenever you can. That's why I didn't get onto this stream until now.
Yeah, that's great. You got to spend time with the family, of course.
It was Scrabble with the girls. That's what it was.
Awesome.
So, all right, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to duck out of here before I'm kicked out.
See, man.
Right.
Have a good night,
guys. Have a great weekend.
Same to you, ID Crisis. Thanks for joining us again.
Yep.
Thanks for coming.
Take it easy.
All right, that was cool.
Yeah, that was
little
fun.
impromptu, interviews with some of our listeners and watchers. So hopefully, if we have time next week, we'll do it again, because that's always a fun thing to do. And Brad, once again, if you are listening, please join us again next week, and we'll have you on again. And hopefully, your connection is a lot stronger. But with that said, next week will be Silence of the Lambs. So join us for that show. And any last words before we call it a night, Sean?
I always say, may the force be with you, so I'll stick with that.
All right, cool. That's cool with me. James?
Get some Fafa beans and a nice Chianti, because it's going to be a great Friday next Friday. Can't wait.
Agreed. Yeah, it is going to be a great show next Friday, because Silence of the Lambs is one of my favorite films. And of course, when we talk about films that are my favorite or our favorites, we tend to get giddy like children and excited to share our excitement for how much we love these films. So join us next week. Silence of the Lambs, Talking Cinema. I'm your host, Julius Freeman. And please, Sean, may the force be with you.
Bring us out.
I went blank.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I went blank.
Sure. Yeah. I'll see.
Let me rephrase that. Let me rewind. Okay. We are your host, Julius Freeman, Sean Malone, James Callahan. There you go.
Right.
Join us next week.
We are one person.
We are one, 3 in 1, the Trinity, 3 in 1.
Yeah.
The three-head guy in Monty Python.
the count, what was that, a knee? Was it the
giant with the 3 heads?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. The Giants, the
of
Knights.
Knee?
No, the Knights of Knee. The Knights of Knee kind of steal the show from the 3-headed giant dudes, but they're also
okay. All right.
a thing.
All right. Oh, that's right. That's right. The one with they confront Robin.
They're the ones that go, "Oh, you got bad breath."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to do a Monty Python show one day, because they deserve a show, because Monty Python were fantastic. So with that said, you guys out there, have a great weekend. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Those algorithms help us out if you hit the like button and you leave a comment. So help us out there, and have a great weekend. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next Friday for Silence of the Lambs. Peace.
Good night, everyone.